So England have one group game left in the Women's World Cup. That's against Bangladesh in Wellington. The equation is simple. Win, and they get through to the semi-finals. And you can hear that on Saturday night from 10 p.m. on BBC Radio 5 Sports Extra and via BBC Sounds. Henry Moran leads our commentary team there.
Well, welcome to Wellington, where the wind is blowing strongly. We had quite a nervy landing yesterday afternoon as the plane was buffeted about on its final approach into this fabulous city. And this morning we've headed to the Basin Reserve, one of the few grounds in world cricket that is in the middle of a big roundabout, so you might just hear the odd car going past in the background. It is there where we found England opener Tammy Beaumont this morning ahead of England's final group match against Bangladesh. A victory for England will see them guaranteed through to the semi-finals, some achievement having lost their first 3 group matches. Stefan Schemilt, the BBC's chief cricket writer, caught up with Tammy Beaumont.
Tammy, you've had 3 wins to follow 3 defeats.
Well, that was England opener Tammy Beaumont.
Why that turnaround has come about?
I think, looking back now, those defeats were very close. We didn't play our best cricket, but at the same time, they were all within kind of 10, 12 runs. So, it was tough to take at the beginning. It looked like we might never get in this position. But, going into tomorrow, we know we've got, it's in our own hands to make that semi-finals.
Speaking after the Pakistan game, Catherine Brunt said you might have played a bit of a part in the turnaround by getting some messages from people back home and showing them to the rest of the team.
Yeah, I actually think I did that before the South Africa game. So at that point, I wasn't sure I'd done a good job. I had a bit of fun with it. I made it like a hide and seek in the changing room. You had to find the pictures, and it had everyone in tears. So at the time, I thought I'd done a very, very bad thing. But I think we've been away a very long time now, and it was just a nice thing to do to kind of remind everyone that there's a lot of people back home rooting for us.
Looking back at what you've been through over the winter, the Ashes and the start of this competition, but you've now got yourselves into a position where you are 3 wins away from winning the World Cup again.
Yeah, and I think that's the exciting thing is, it's been a tough year so far. It's been a very long tour for us, very long time away from home, but you've got to be in it to win it, and we've only got to get into that top 4, stay in that top 4, and 2 more games, you never know, 2 wins, anything can happen.
Did you watch the game yesterday? What was your thoughts on, or if you didn't see it, what are your thoughts on how Bangladesh managed to push Australia close at certain moments?
We missed half the game because we were on a pretty turbulent flight into windy Wellington, which I think gave us all a lot of stress. But when we did land, we obviously drove past the ground and actually saw the score. So we were like, we had a little watch when we got to the hotel, and they obviously look a really good outfit. They look really good in the field. They're clear on their plans as bowlers. So we're going to have to be on it. We can't underestimate them. They obviously had the Aussies kind of 5 down quite early. So for us, it's going to be key to making sure we kind of bat long and get in and make the most of it, really.
When you think about the conditions, I mean, the sun's out today, but it's still very windy. It was atrocious yesterday. They had to take the bails off because they kept blowing away. How are you going to combat that tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean, we won't see one of Nat Sivers hitting the stumps and the bail staying on if it's like that tomorrow. But it's obviously never easy. I think the bowlers probably have it a little bit tougher, having to get the right ends and the right swing. And in the field, it's obviously going to be tricky taking those catches, which is obviously going to be key. But it's something we're just going to have to get on with, I think.
After everything that you guys have gone through, do you now actually feel that you're really building some momentum towards the business end of the tournament?
Yeah, I do, and I think it's not necessarily how you start, it's how you finish, and we're going in with some key performances, having gone past, Catherine Brunt coming back into form last game, Heather Knight's really hit her straps with the bat, Danny Wyatt hitting some runs, and Nat Sivers been brilliant throughout. So yeah, I think the key performance, and everyone's kind of peaking at the right time going into kind of this game and hopefully the semi-finals.
On those performances, you mentioned Catherine, the way she bowled against Pakistan, Danny Wyatt getting runs at the top of the order, solving a bit of an issue where England haven't quite been able to find someone to partner yourself. Do you feel like those pieces, some vital pieces, are actually falling into place now?
Yeah, I mean, Catherine's a world-class player and has been for, I should probably say, 20 years. She's incredibly important for us. She sets the tone with the ball, and for her to come back really strong in the last game and really find that rhythm's exceptional. And yeah, obviously I still don't think we got past 31 in terms of an opening partnership, so I'll try and pull my finger out tomorrow. But it's great that Danny's kind of, got runs last game and can take that confidence into these last few games.
What about from your point of view? Your partner being changed around a couple of times in a relatively short space of time. How important is it to have that settled partnership to get off to a good start at the top of the order?
Yeah, it's tough, but that's kind of part of the job. Luckily, it's been two of my best mates in the team, Lauren Winfield-Hill and Danny Wyatt are two of the people that probably know me best, so it hasn't been too difficult to kind of chop and change between the two of them. But yeah, hopefully we can kind of get that really key partnership for the team to get us off to a good start tomorrow.
And you mentioned how long the tour's been, how long you've been away from home. Potentially only 1 week left, 1 week to win the World Cup.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a really good week, couldn't it?
And that would make everything worthwhile, wouldn't it? Everything that you've been through over the past 2 and a bit, 3 months.
Yeah, I reckon so. I think that would make it certainly worthwhile. Coming out to play in Ashes and a World Cup, leaving with one trophy would be, yeah, pretty good.
Earlier on today here at the Basin Reserve in the sunshine at Wellington, and Stefan Schemmelt, you caught up with her and got some thoughts, and she seemed in reasonable spirits, and this is a pretty good position for England to be in given where they were.
It's a much better position than they were just over a week ago. The good thing from England's point of view is they've not only won those 3 matches to put themselves in control of their own destiny when it comes to reaching the semi-finals, but things are starting to click into place as well. So if we look back on the game against Pakistan, going into that game we were concerned about whether or not Catherine Brunt was in the best of form. She'd only taken 1 wicket in 5 previous games. She takes 3 wickets. There've been concerns over England's opening partnership. They tried Lauren Winfield-Hill and Emma Lamb this winter at the top of the order with Tammy Beaumont. They made the switch to go to Danny Wyatt. Danny Wyatt makes runs against Pakistan. So the little things that England want to fall into place if they're going to win this competition, they are just starting to click for them. And that goes along with things like we've seen improving earlier, like their fielding, which was such a big issue when they were losing those first 3 games. So it's not just the fact that England have won 3 games, it's how they're winning them. And like Tammy Beaumont says, they might just feel like they're picking up some momentum and they're peaking at the right time, going into what is essentially 3 games, 3 wins to win the World Cup.
Every time we interview an England player at the moment, Steph, they mention how long they've been away from home. Is there a little bit of a danger there that they're getting too bogged down in the thought of, well, we've been away for ages and ages and ages, and actually not thinking we're so close to the finish line, what an achievement it would be?
Look, it's difficult to know without us being in those conversations amongst the team, but it is something that does come up a lot. Catherine Brunt has mentioned it, Tammy Beaumont mentioned it today. Pretty much every player that we speak to mentions the length of time that England have been on tour, and they have been away for a long time. They left for the Ashes in the first week of January. They had a very difficult time in Australia where they didn't win a game. Then they came straight to New Zealand where they spent time in quarantine. They had a poor start to this competition, and they might have felt that the time away from home was a factor in some of their performances. However, these England players have been asking for greater opportunity, greater professionalism. With that comes more demands on their time, and other teams are in a very similar situation. Australia themselves, they met up on the 17th of January. That was when their first training session was, ahead of the Ashes. None of those players have been at home since. India, they toured, or they had a 1-day series here in New Zealand before the World Cup. They had to meet up for 10 days of hard quarantine in India before they came to New Zealand, and then did another 10 days of quarantine when they arrived here. Some of England's rivals have been on the road for a similar amount of time. This sort of thing, I'm guessing, doesn't matter if you're winning games of cricket. England were losing them, and so being away from home would have been a problem. I'm certain if they get their hands on the World Cup in Christchurch in just over a week's time, they will feel like the amount of time that they've been away has all been worth it.
First up though, Bangladesh. Is this a gimme? Is this as close to a gimme in world cricket?
Absolutely not. And anyone who saw the way that Bangladesh pushed Australia all the way yesterday on that Basin Reserve ground will know that Bangladesh could pose some problems for England. Bangladesh posted, or they asked Australia to chase 135. If Annabelle Sutherland had not been dropped, at one point Australia could have been 79 for 6. Ultimately, Beth Mooney saw them to victory. Look, this is a game that England should win, and win comfortably. They've never played Bangladesh in a 1-day international. This is Bangladesh's first World Cup. England should be dealing with them comfortably in the way that they dealt with Pakistan. England had won every single 1-day that they'd played against Pakistan prior to Thursday, and they were ruthless in defeating them by 9 wickets with more than 30 overs of the chase to spare. That is the sort of performance that England will be looking for against Bangladesh. But, as we've seen in this World Cup, nothing can be taken for granted, and England could be on the end of a very embarrassing slip-up if they don't take the Bangladesh threat seriously.